Metroidvania platformers. I love me some Metroidvania, but I also love some good old-fashioned digging. Not the kind of crazy backyard digging your dog might do, but the kind you'd expect from a game like Dig Dug, where you risk your life against underground monsters you can feed your starving family. Imagine my surprise years ago when SteamWorld Dig released, a game that promised me a little bit Metroid, a little bit Dig Dug. I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm a poor man, so I was unable to acquire this glorious spelunking simulator until Origin recently gave it away for free. Of course, the developers over at Image and Form probably only let us have it because the sequel released recently, but hey, free is free. So anyway, let's not waste any more time. Strap on your mining lights and grab your pickaxes. We're entering the world of SteamWorld Dig. From the moment you begin a new game, you're immediately thrown into a tutorial. The game teaches you how to traverse the world and how to dig, which for a long time will be the only things you really need to know. If you took a few moments to bind your keys before starting, the tutorial was largely unnecessary for veteran gamers, but the tutorial also serves as a plot point to explain why your character, Rusty, would even travel out to this desolate area and start mining to begin with. The passing of such a tool vital to forward progression from uncle to nephew is an easily missed reference to A Link to the Past, so bonus points for that. Much of the gameplay after the tutorial is repetitive. Dig, gather resources, trade resources for money, upgrade your equipment and health with said money, rinse and repeat. Later on, the game becomes a bit more diverse, offering tools needed to more easily traverse the game world. Boost and increase your movement speed if you dash, the ability to make a really high leap into the air, a drill to cut through the dirt easier. There are numerous upgrades that make your life easier, many more than I've listed here actually, but those are some of the more important ones. When the game gives you a break from the normal gameplay, it's usually for a puzzle or a platforming challenge. If you're a veteran to these kind of games, many of these challenges aren't especially difficult until later. While we're talking about the platforming, the movement in this game seems top-notch, making the controls feel precise enough that any mistakes you make are almost always your own. Vertical movement is quick and natural, and an early upgrade makes horizontal movement faster while also aiding your upward mobility. It's something that you won't realize you needed until you obtain it. SteamWorld Dig is a pleasant mix of steampunk and western themes. The dusty mining town that makes up the overworld sets the mood and overall tone of the game, while the dark mines are host to various kinds of intimidating creatures. Each area has the right kind of visual cues that make it a breeze to traverse, and it's simple to guess what your boundaries are based on the type of terrain you're near. The background looks great and fits each area perfectly. Artistically, each area you'll visit has a very specific direction. The mines in the early game are light and rich with ore, while later areas are darker and more foreboding. The developers made things more tense as the game progresses, making each new area feel more foreign and dangerous than the last, and as a result, helps to better immerse you into the game world. Brace yourself, because here's where the pendulum swings the other way. SteamWorld Dig is rife with problems that should have been addressed before the game was released. For starters, the game allows you access to additional tools like extra lamps, ladders, and dynamite that should theoretically assist you in your spelunking experience, but prove instead to be a waste of money. Lamps are very limited in use, climbing up ladders is much slower than simply jumping up walls, and the game never puts you into a situation where you'd actually need to use a ladder. Dynamite is useful, though more for destroying enemies than it is for destroying the ground. Another item in the game that is somewhat useful is the portable teleporter, but because they require an alternative game currency, better use or upgrades, there's no real incentive to use these until much later in the game. Some of the game's most limiting aspects, the light and water meters, only prove to be minor nuisances. Within an hour or two of playing, you'll have so much of both that you'll only run out if you're just carelessly playing around. Easily obtained upgrades allow you to more easily fill your water tank. These resources run out so rarely, there's no reason to worry about them. There's no real challenge within the game and its enemies. In fact, I found the geography and its various crushing hazards far more dangerous than the average enemy. Who only become more challenging when placed in large groups. The platforming isn't much of a challenge either, even in the late game where the difficulty ramps up notably. Oh, and just to be clear, there's only one boss fight and he's at the very end of the game, which really surprised me because the game seemed ripe for more. Even then, the game's only boss isn't much of a challenge either if you're simply patient enough. most of SteamWorld Dig's music is just okay, with the sort of traditional Western movie soundtrack overtones you might expect from a Western-themed game. There's really not many good things to say here about the soundtrack because while the songs are made well enough, and each track does its job, I can't help but feel like there was a missed opportunity. With the game's sort of steampunk-inspired imagery, you'd think the soundtrack would better reflect that. The real issue here is that SteamWorld Dig's music is ultimately unremarkable. Each time I got into playing the game, I quickly forgot the music was even there, more focused on the digging and platforming. There are plenty of games that I've played in my lifetime that demanded I focus on skilled gameplay, but still had soundtracks that I could recognize and enjoy during the average playthrough. In that regard, this game falls completely flat. Sadly, the soundtrack only has 8 songs on it, so don't expect a lot of variety here. Another thing the game sorely lacks is replay value. Due to its linear nature, there's really nothing a somewhat thorough playthrough will miss, and there's nothing waiting for you at the end of the game. No New Game Plus, no extra stages or better challenges, not a single thing to encourage you to continue to play the game. When you've beaten the game and watched the end credits roll, that's pretty much it. You're done. Worse than that, perhaps, is that I completed the game thoroughly on my first and only playthrough, and yet I only clocked in around 5 hours. I didn't even get a gold star for performance. Not cool, man. Because of that, I can't really encourage people to purchase SteamWorld Dig at full price. The current price tag as of this review, that is if you didn't get it for free on Origin, is around $10, but has gone down as low as $5. It's doubtful this game will get much lower than that, but $5 is, in my opinion, a fair price for the amount of content held within the game. Looking back in retrospect, I can't shake the feeling that the game was developed with such minimal content on purpose, perhaps to fund the sequel, which looks every bit what SteamWorld Dig should have been from the very beginning. Thanks for sticking around to the end, partner. Mosey that newfangled cursor on down to the subscribe button for more Chunky Beef, or check out the description for links to our Minds, Twitter, and Twitch pages. You'll definitely want to be sure to keep up with everything going on. See y'all real soon.